All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Gussapolooza 2024. We're here at the MTAV Bar and Stage, the multi-tech audio-visual bar and stage, doing seminars all day long. And then we have some artists coming up after the seminars, so stick around. Up next, we've got Melly. She is with the Canadian Musicians Co-op, and she started writing songs at the age of 9 to cope with some mental depression, a long battle with mental depression. Nearly 16 years later, she's gained over 2 million followers across all social media with her covers and her original songs. She shares her journey of learning guitar with her audience. You can follow her, all the social media handles at Melly Baby Music. So look her up. But without further ado, here she is. Melly, thank you so much.
Hello. How is everyone today? Good, good. You ready to learn about songwriting? Okay, so I'm also a performer, but songwriting is my main love. This is what got me into music in the first place. So today what we're going to be talking about is, I'm not going to be going over the basic stuff of, like song structure and all that. I'm going to be talking about like the key pieces, like, have you guys ever heard of Max Martin? He did like Hit Me Baby One More Time and a million other songs. So he's got a lot of, I've studied his work a lot, and so I'm going to be touching on a bit of that stuff, as well as I had a songwriting mentor in LA named Symphony Green, and she taught me about the what and the why of songwriting, and also how to shake off writer's block and devising your own songwriting philosophy. So the key pieces of songwriting, obviously, are melody and lyrics. But melody is king. So you want to make sure that the lyrics are serving the melody. So whether you have lyrics first or melody first, the melody is the most important part. So that doesn't mean that you want to discredit the lyrics, but if you have to change something, you don't want to change the melody to fit the lyrics. You want to make sure that you're changing the lyrics to fit the melody, basically. And part of melodic math is you don't want to make if the verse is wordy per se, you don't want to make the chorus wordy as well, because then that's just a lot of words. So you want to have a kind of opposite structure. So, for example, if the verse is wordy, you want to make the chorus less wordy. And so, vice versa, so on and so forth. So, you don't want to make the melody too complicated, though, in any of your songs. So you want to fit the syllables to lines of the melody. So, for example, what I have here is an example of the chorus, number of syllables. So, the first word will have 5, then 6, then 8. Then we're going to do 5, 6, then 12. Then 5, 6, then 8, and 5, 6, then 12. That's like an A, B song or rhyming structure, which are all of you familiar with the structures, the A, B? Yep, good. Okay, we don't have to go over that then. Okay. So this is kind of this is another part. So like a melodic motif. Has anyone heard of that before? Yeah. So basically, Max suggests that you only use 3 to 4 melodic parts per song. So you can recycle parts. For example, I think one of the songs he uses as an example is E.T. by Katy Perry, how the melody is actually recycled in the verse and the chorus, but then there's there's different sections. So the pre-chorus, I think, changes. And this is an example of a motif. So it's an arrangement of 3 or 4 notes that repeat again and again and again. So it usually stays the same. Sometimes it can change a little bit, like in Lover by Taylor Swift. It goes, my. That's the motif. Lover, that's not the motif. But it's usually the catchy part, the part that you remember. So I, those are the notes. Now, for lyrics, you want to make sure that the chorus hits before the 1 minute. So you can either start off the song with the chorus or the chorus comes in later, but usually for songs that are popular on the radio, you want to make sure that the chorus hits before the 1 minute mark. Because if you don't, then people will probably lose interest, or they're going to get lost in the song. They're not going to know what the catchy part is. And especially these days when people are kind of they have a shorter attention span due to social media. So every hit song has the what and the why. So the what is what is the song about? And then the why is the song about that? So the what could be, today I am very hot, okay? Why? Because it's sunny outside. That's just a very basic example. So usually in the hook is where the what and the why is, but even in other songs that are structured AABA or AACA, where there's no chorus, it's just verse, verse, bridge, verse, which an example is Yesterday by the Beatles, for those of you who know that song. But the why always comes after the what, because you have to explain what is happening before. You can't be you could, but usually it makes the most sense to the listener if you say what the what is before the why. And so I'm going to give you guys a couple examples. This is my first presentation, so I did not download the videos, so we can't listen to the song, so I'm going to sing them for you guys. So the first one is Believe by Cher, which is do you believe in life after love? I can feel something inside me say, I really don't think you're strong enough, no. So does everyone get the lyrics to that? Do you believe in life after love? I can feel something inside me say it, I really don't think you're strong enough. Does anyone want to take a guess at what they think the what is? No one wants to guess. No, yeah? Yeah, do you believe in life after love? Okay. Is the what. And then the why is, I can feel something inside me say, I really don't think you're strong enough. Which is kind of confusing because it's the what is technically a question, but then the next one is Yesterday by the Beatles. Which, since we're just going to go, so it's yesterday, all my troubles seem so far away. That's the song. And the what is, all my troubles seem so far away, now it looks as though they're here to stay. And then the why is, oh, I believe in yesterday. And then suddenly, I'm not half the man I used to be. There's a shadow hanging over me, the why. Oh, yesterday came suddenly. So does anyone have a song, a popular song, that they want to tell the crowd, and we can kind of pick out the what and the why as an example? No? Yes? Maybe? You look like you know a song. No one knows a song that's on the radio right now. Yes? Oh, great. It doesn't have to be on the radio right now. Oh, yeah, so, hey, yeah, hey, yeah. I said, hey, what's going on? That's interesting. I would have to look at the lyrics because I feel like the what is what's going on, and then the why is probably in the verses. Because every song, sometimes the what is the catchy part, and then the why is the verses. So, my phone's over there, so I can't look at the lyrics, but thank you for that song suggestion. But that's going to be my guess, is that the what's going on is the what, without looking at them, but don't hold me to that. Okay, so writer's block. I have actually experienced writer's block a lot in my life, at different points in my life. And I've talked to a lot of different people about what they do or strategies they use to kind of like get over that, okay? So what I like to do when I have writer's block is I don't push myself. I kind of just let myself rest. If I can't think of anything, then like nothing, if I force myself, it's not going to be good. It's not going to sound good. I'm going to make myself more tired. And usually when I'm having writer's block, it means that like I need a break. I need to just chill. I need to relax. I need to recharge. Because with art, like I'm sure most of you know, like you can't just be go, go, go all the time. You have to let it come naturally. So another thing that somebody suggested to me was trying to take a different approach. So if you start writing with the melody, maybe try starting with like a poem, like writing lyrics. Or if you start writing with just sitting down with your guitar or your piano, maybe try writing to like a track, like doing a top line. You could write in a different genre. I love to write in different genres all the time, just to, make sure I don't get stuck in a certain pattern of, I like to be versatile, make sure I can write across all genres. So not all genres. I wouldn't say that I am good at rapping, but you can also try relocating. So I know that whenever I go to a different place, I'm always super inspired. But if I stay there for a long time, then I kind of get stuck in this like, okay, I've used up all my creative juices here, and so I'll try and like relocate. Like if I'm writing a song in my bedroom every single day for like 20 years, then I'm gonna get stifled probably more often than if I, go walk to the park down the street, or if, you have the time and the money, you could go take a trip somewhere, do like a songwriting trip, or you could go to your friend's house and write in their backyard if they have a cool backyard. And that's another thing is like co-writing can help with writer's block, because especially if you're comfortable with that person that you're writing with, co-writing can kind of help you like approach things in a different way that you are not used to, right? How many people here have done co-writes before? Okay, only a couple people. How many people want to do co-writes? No one? A couple people? You do? You want to do co-writes? You have done co-writes? Okay, who likes co-writing more than writing by themselves? Really? That's so interesting. That's really cool. I like co-writing. I find I always write differently while I'm co-writing, because you're always with a different energy, right? You're with a different person who approaches things differently than you do, and maybe makes you think about things differently than you normally would. So that can help you get out of writer's block, right? And you can also use other songs for inspiration. So many people do this, like Surfing USA. It's like everybody na 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 was inspired by a Chuck Berry song. While I was preparing for this presentation, I watched like a video on songs that were famous songs that were inspired by other famous songs, and some of them are like the exact same. And I'm like so confused how they did not get sued. But yeah, maybe don't do it like that. But yeah. This was a video I was going to play, but that's okay. That was my fault. So you have to always do what works for you. Songwriting is a very personal thing, and what works for you might not work for someone else. And also, just because you get along with someone doesn't mean you're going to write the best song together, or you're going to have the best co-write. But also, just because you don't have a good co-write doesn't mean you won't have a good co-write next time. Everything is, art is strange. It's never the same. You can never paint the same painting. Just because you write a song one day doesn't mean you could write the exact same song the next day. And so you shouldn't be afraid to try new things, even if you have an approach that works for you, or you know what works for you and you're like, okay, this is what works for me, this works every time, I'm gonna do this. Don't be afraid to try something else that somebody suggests where they're trying to pull you out of your comfort zone, especially in a co-write. And never be closed-minded to trying new approaches for songwriting, because you never know what might happen. And yeah, this was a lot. I feel like a lot of information at once. I tend to be a fast talker. So does anyone have questions or anything they want to talk about more? Yes.
Yeah, there is.
Hi, thank you for coming and doing this. I wanted to ask you about splits.
Yes.
And so, when does the discussion come up? When do you decide who gets what? Because obviously that's not something you want to
Yeah.
afterwards, after the song's been recorded and released. So yeah.
So there's two different ways you can go about it. Usually, what I like to do is I like to do kind of just whoever works on the song gets an equal split. So if it's me and my friend, we get 50-50. No matter, especially if we're writing together frequently, because one day I might give 90% and she might give 10%, but the next day, she might give 90% and I might give 10%, so it'll even its way out. Or you can do, how much you feel that you contributed to the song. So if you feel like you did 60%, then you're like, hey, but I would say you should pick which one you're going to do and discuss that with your co-writer at the beginning of the co-write, not after the song's written. Just in case, because what if you write this amazing song and then you're not on the same page, right? Then nothing can happen with that song. So I would say if you are clear on which way you kind of want to go about it, then you discuss that at the beginning, and then if you choose the one where you pick the percentages, then at the end, after the song is written and done, then I would sit down and also make sure no matter who it is, it could be your best friend, it could be your cousin, you want to make sure it's in writing. Yes, thank you for your question.
The verbal agreement it rarely works.
No,
yes,
does
in my
not work.
experience, Yeah.
Especially if it does well.
Well, that's just it, right? And I've had situations where, I'm a record producer, but I've had producers, add a line or change one melody, and afterwards, after everything's been done, they ask for a percentage point. And so to me, that is almost the wrong time to be discussing it as well, because it should be discussed right at the time when you're, but as a producer, you also have, responsibility to inject a certain amount of, the song structure. You're doing certain things that are part of your job, which you're already being paid to do. So obviously you don't,
Yeah, I think it's definitely something that you want to make sure if somebody is going to add in a line or or a word or something. I think kind of maybe not in that exact moment, but very soon after, whether it's later that day or the next morning, be like, hey, by the way, do you want a percent for this? How much? And make sure that that's clear, right away.
And I think songwriters need to understand that that's also something that happens, as opposed to, well, you didn't do anything, or you just changed one line. That's not, but that is still songwriting. So everyone needs to be on the same page as to,
I agree, and I think that whether you see it as one line or not, that could be one line that makes or breaks the song. So I think it's a very uncomfortable thing, especially for songwriters who are very emotional people, to talk about business and money and splits. So I would encourage you to not be shy, because in my experience, I respect people who are very upfront about that. So it makes my life easy no one wants to start that conversation, but it makes my life easy to be like, oh yeah, okay, we can talk about this. Thank you. Yes?
I'm going to ask the next question for you. So, as someone who loves doing co-writes, I find that a lot of people who I initiate the co-writes with are always a little nervous. I find, especially in this city, a lot of people tend to be anxious about songwriting and co-writing with other people, because they're like, what if the session doesn't go well, or what if something doesn't come out? So I would love to hear your perspective on, let's say you're in a co-write with somebody and it's not really, there's not really much happening. Maybe you don't write a hit that day, which I know you don't always do. But what's your advice to somebody who's in that co-writing session who's like, oh, we're not getting anything? How can you navigate it to make it a little bit more positive, so that even if you don't get a hit, or how can you maybe navigate the conversation to start writing something different and make it a more positive experience so that people don't leave discouraged,
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think what I like to do when I'm doing a co-write is I never do the co-write the first time I'm meeting the person. I always like to grab coffee or do something that's like I get to know the person and who they are as a person, they get to know me. But then when we're doing the co-write, if one idea isn't exactly working, I just simply say, hey, do you want to try a different idea? And we can come back to this idea if we're inspired to come back to it, or if we think of something for it. Just so that if you get through a couple ideas, and also it's hard because you want to make sure that that person feels comfortable to come back to you and be you can't base the first co-write off, or the person and how well you write together off the first session, right? So I know everyone wants the first session to go well, but if it's not, then I would say, yeah, just be honest and just be like, let's try a different idea. We can come back to this one if we feel like it. This is a great idea. I love it. But I can't think of anything else right now. Let's try something else. Or you could always try suggesting relocating. If you guys are in one room, maybe try moving to a different room, or going outside, or coming inside, or something like that. Or taking a break, maybe going out, getting coffee, getting a snack, depending how much time you have. And then, because that can also help break up the part. You guys can actually have conversations about your life. You'll get to know them more, and they'll get to know you more. So,
can I just
does
add
that help?
one? Yeah, it does. And just because I think it's a really good thing to hear these kind of conversations, because like I said, so many people do get discouraged. Can you give one piece of advice to somebody? Let's say nothing happens from that session. What's one thing you could tell an artist to not discourage them to continue to co-write? You know what I mean?
That happens to everyone. Everyone goes through a co-write where nothing happens. Everyone. And if you don't, please tell me what you're doing, because I would like to know. But everyone experiences that, and I would say 9 times out of 10, the person that you co-wrote with is not judging you for it. They're probably feeling the exact same way you are, regardless of what level they're at. They're also probably feeling oh, this person's never going to want to write with me again, blah, 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 blah. They're probably in their head too. So try and keep that in mind. And yeah. Yes?
Perfect. So I was wondering how you deal with, if you're doing a co-write, kind of artists wanting to go in kind of different directions, or where they think the music should be going. How do you deal with differences of opinions in that?
I think that depends. It really depends on who you're writing the song for. So sometimes in a co-write, you can kind of just write a song and then you're like, oh, okay, this sounds more like you. Or if you're not an artist, it could be this sounds like this artist, or sounds like it's for this artist, or whatever. But I would try and be clear at the beginning, your intention for the co-write. If you're okay, let's sit down and let's write a song for you. Let's say I'm just a writer. I'm okay, let's get into a room, let's sit down and let's write you a song. Or if I'm an artist and there's 3 artists sitting down, then we should be okay, let's write a song and see who it fits the best. Or let's write a song for me. Or, be clear with the intention of who you're writing a song for, because if you're writing a song for person A and person A doesn't connect with the song, then it doesn't make sense, right? So person A would have the most kind of say over if they feel like that song is for them, because, they're the person that's going to be singing it or doing whatever with it. But if you are writing in just a group of songwriters and nobody's an artist, then that's difficult. I feel like maybe that idea isn't something that you guys should be writing together, because clearly you have different opinions on it. And maybe try saying, hey, let's work on a different idea that we both feel similarly about.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have questions? Yes. Got to go all the way to the other side of the room.
Okay, this is a bit of a confusing situation, so I'm not sure where you would go with it. But I was co-writing with someone, and we'd been working at stuff all week, and then of course just we were getting burnt out, really tired. We were 2/3 way through a song. We'd already talked about where that song was going to go at the end, like how it was going to come together. And then decided to take a break because, we said we'll be back in a couple hours, take a break and everything. So I went, had a nap, get up. He has finished the song completely not at all what I liked at all, and it's supposed to be for me to sing, but has meanwhile already copied it and sent it into SOCAN. So now then what is there anything I can do? Like, can I just take that 2/3 of the song and then finish it the way I think it was supposed to be? Or is it just basically out of my hands now?
I think you should be able to take what you wrote if it was a perfect world. That's a difficult one. I think if I would have a conversation with this person, I know you may not be in the best.
Did.
Okay. What did they say? Did they say yeah, you can take what you wrote?
No, he just said, we were just running out of time, so I had to get it done. And that's all. That was his only reply.
Okay. Was this a paid session? What?
No, we were both writing together for an album.
You're both writing together.
Yeah.
Interesting.
We'd already done 7 songs together.
Oh wow, 7 songs, and this is the first time that's happened.
Yeah. It's just
And you didn't like
And
it,
it's so cliche at the end.
and
It's
you
so
communicated that you didn't like it.
very much so, yes.
Okay, but you liked what you had before.
Yeah, I liked what we wrote before.
Okay, so I mean, what you could do is you could try finishing the song your way and submitting it to him and seeing what he thinks. Or you could, that's weird.
It is. It's really
I'm
weird.
so sorry that happened to
I
you.
think he's losing it, but I can't say that for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the song is totally cliche ending, which is not normal. Yeah. Here. Maybe you have an answer. I just didn't know.
Yeah, if anyone else has an answer to that one.
What would they be open to, just saying, well, that's a rendition of the song? Because sometimes there's multiple renditions or applications of a work, right?
Yeah.
And say, that's that interpretation of the song, but we're going to release multiple, and so you can register, you know what I mean? Your interpretation of it, because I think,
That's true.
right?
Yeah, you could do multiple renditions of it.
They didn't send it for distribution, did they, or just through SOCAN? So the good thing about SOCAN is that's just for like he said, the renditions. Those are just for your writing, right? So it's not actually distribution. That's just the creativity aspect. So what you could do is just say, okay, look, I personally didn't love that song. This is what I think our royalty should be for that version of it. And then create the other one the way you want and do that a 50-50 situation. Because I understand why he threw it on SOCAN. It's probably just because we wrote the song. It needs to go up there so that no one ever steals our work and it's there, right? So he just put it on there. If it was distribution, it would be a totally different story. I'd be like, absolutely not. Take it down. That's not what I want. But if it's something like through SOCAN, I would just say, it's a rendition that's written. You now have that kind of legally bound to you, but you can take what you feel you deserve from that and give what he deserves, and then you can create the rendition you want. Kind of like how Taylor Swift did her new thing, where it's like Taylor's way, you know what I mean? So that would be my best recommendation. Yeah.
That's great advice. Thank you. Yeah, that is not a situation I have ever come across, but I guess that is definitely something that is good to know, and you're probably not the only one that has experienced that. So, yeah, don't do that again. Yeah. Oh wow. Does anyone else have any other questions? Yes.
Get my steps in.
I need the microphone. So you've talked a lot about co-writing. What is your process like for when you're writing by yourself? What does that look like?
I write songs in a lot of different ways. Basically, my best songs come from something I just hear. I'm like, it's like a light bulb goes on in my head. I'm like, whoa. And like, That's So Raven. It's like a That's So Raven moment. For those who know that show. But, and then I'll sit down and it just like comes out of me. But if I'm sitting down to write a song, I usually grab my guitar and I just start singing and playing whatever. Or I will find like a whatever genre I'm doing. So like, let's say pop rock type beat on YouTube for inspiration for like what kind of feel I'm going for. And then that usually helps me come up with melodies, and then I'll go and create my own kind of chords that I want to go with it. And I'm also a melody writer, so melody is the thing that I always start with. But if I can't find a good word to go with it, then the melody's kind of pointless. So to me anyway, that's my process.
And what are some of your most favorite co-write sessions that you've done?
Ooh. I did this one co-write when I went to Song Studio in Toronto years ago with these two other young women. We were all I think 16 though, so we were still kids. But it was interesting because we just sat down. We had this little keyboard thing that was really small and not a real keyboard, and we wrote this song that I really like, and I think we all really liked it. We wrote it in an hour, and it was great, and it felt really easy. I also had another co-write when I was in Nashville for this songwriter girl camp with this. I think I was 15 at the time, and this woman was probably a bit older than me, and so I was like, how is this going to work? Also, I hadn't done a lot of co-writes at the time because I was 15, and we wrote this hilarious song. It was a joke song because at first we were like, okay, what do we write about? Because they had put us in groups, right? And they were like, everyone's going to present these songs at the end, and everyone wrote all these serious songs, and we just were we wrote this joke song, and we thought it was hilarious because we couldn't come up with anything that was that we liked that was a serious song. So we're like, all right, let's just write the silliest song we can think of. So I guess that's another thing you could do if you're in a co-write and nothing's happening, is you could just write a joke song. You could write the silliest song that you can think of, and then that also that's something you'll remember years later as well as a positive experience. Thank you for that question. Does anyone else have other questions?
Have you used AI as a songwriting tool? And if you haven't, yeah, well, someone's had to ask this. And if you haven't, what do you foresee its uses in the future?
I used it once just to see what it would do, and I didn't like it. I thought it came up with good good lyrics, but it was very repetitive, and every time I put in a different prompt, it was the exact same kind of flow per se. I think in the future, it's learning, I know. I personally don't really love that idea, but I know that it will be something that we're going to all have to adapt to and use in the future. But in the future, probably it's going to, I would say, aid songwriters. So maybe if there's a co-write that you can't come up with anything, maybe it would come up with a prompt or something that you could use, if you're experiencing writer's block or something like that. I would say that's my optimistic brain.
Just going back to your process, do you have any advice for when an idea comes to you, but you're out and about, you don't necessarily have your guitar or anything to capture the melody in your mind? I personally try to repeat it. I tell myself, yeah, I'll totally remember that later, and I never do.
Yeah, I know the feeling. I would say try and are you a person that is a melody or a word writer?
Melody.
Melody. And you there's been times where you don't have the phone or a phone with you, a voice memo or anything.
Yeah, I guess a voice memo would work. I
Like
feel
a
most
voice memo
people
could
don't
work,
like
but I know it's like it's not exactly how you envision it, and it's like you can never go back to it. But if you can come up with words, even if they're not the permanent words,
Yeah.
and you write down the words, I always find that'll help me remember the melody. If I have words and I'm like, okay, like I can change the words, but it'll remind you, if you have the words that are exactly like the syllables you hear and like the cadence and everything about that melody, you're more likely to remember it than just trying to remember a melody just by itself. If you don't have access to like a voice note on your phone or something.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Anyone else?
So I was a few minutes late coming in, so I don't know if we already touched on this or not, so apologies if you did. But
That's okay.
do you have any advice for just like getting out of writer's block?
Yeah, so writer's block. I would say the best thing that I would do is try and change your environment. So, going outside, or if you have the time and the money, going on a trip or going into a different room. Also, don't push yourself. If you're experiencing writer's block, that usually means you need a break to recharge those creative juices. And also co-writing, because people can, help inspire something in you that you couldn't pull out yourself.
I just wrote a column about this actually, but one thing that some people don't really do a lot, and I've been testing this, is to listen to music, even your own music, really, really quietly on headphones, so that you can just barely make out what's going on, and then sometimes it's like it generates ideas that you wouldn't have normally thought of. Yeah, either a song that you're
Interesting.
working on or even someone else's song, but so that you can just barely make it out, the melody, whatever it is, and then sometimes some things click. Or use AI. Well, to touch on that though, because there's actually a seminar about AI tomorrow, I believe. But if you're using it as an intended tool, as far as like, give me a rhyme for said word, give me this, give me, can instruct it as a tool, because you're looking at me anyway. I look up rhyme zone or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm still using a tool to do that. It's just that AI is facilitating your route to that.
AI is just filtering out all the words that you don't even know how to pronounce.
Right. Yeah. But also you don't want it to take the fun out of the craft of songwriting. Like it's not intended to replace the human beauty of writing a song. It's just, it shouldn't, right? It should be leveraged.
It shouldn't, yeah, exactly. If you use it as a tool, like AI, if you use it as a tool, an aid, instead of a crutch, or then I think it's a great thing. And, I think a lot of people don't know how to use it that way yet. So.
Yeah.
This is a put it on the spot question. Have you
Okay.
ever gone to write a song but couldn't write it, or didn't want to finish writing it even though you knew it was a good song because you were afraid you were going to hurt somebody's feelings because you knew they'd know who it's about?
Oh, okay, no. Yeah. I've written a lot of songs about people, and yeah, they usually know it's about them, but most of the time, if I'm writing it, like sometimes people never hear it, or usually if I'm angry enough to write a song, I am not worried about hurting their feelings.
Well, it isn't always done out of anger, but you know that if they heard it, they
Yeah.
hurt their feelings.
Yeah. Don't use their name, or do, but yeah. Okay. Well, thank you guys all for coming. And if you guys, since I know we talked a lot about co-writing, I'm with the Canadian Musicians Co-op, and we are doing our first songwriting week in 2 weeks. If you guys want to come, you can come talk to me. I've got some information about that. So thank you guys for coming, and thank you to Gussapolooza for having me.